Okay, hello, welcome everyone to our presentation about securing EV chargers. And I thought we will start with a quick question for the audience in the beginning. So who of you in the audience is using a fully electric car? Hands up.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, there are even,
Yeah, very good.
because you are maybe interested in our talk, so that's maybe why the percentage is even higher here in this room. Yeah, as you know, EV adoption grows rapidly throughout Europe. Protecting charging infrastructure and other threats become essential to ensure reliability and user safety. So today, Kish and we will explore the challenges faced by EV chargers, discuss strategies to defend against potential attacks, and try to safeguarding both the technology and the users who depend on it. But first of all, we'd like to introduce ourselves, and since I'm already talking, let me start with myself. So my name is Kristes. I'm working for USD AG, a German-based USA company, and I led the security audit and PCI division there. I've been working in the PCI sector for over 20 years now, and helping organizations in PCI and security-related projects. So on a personal note, and that was also my question in the beginning, so I'm also very passionate about electric vehicles, and I've been driving fully electric for the past 4 years now. I had a lot of experience in that area. I also used the BP charging network a lot during that time. I had very good experience with the charging network with BP. And with that, I will hand over to Kish for his introduction.
Thanks, Chris. My name is Kish Khan. I'm the GRC lead, one of many, at BP, with responsibilities for Pulse and EV charging globally. I've been doing PCI since version 1.2, so I'm a lifer, as I was told back there. I think you get less for murder in the UK. So I've lived it and breathed it. Thanks, Chris.
Okay, then let's see what's our agenda for today. So first, Kish is starting with an introduction to electric vehicle chargers and BP's charging infrastructure. Although there are some people in the room, as we have seen, that have fully electric vehicles, I think the topic is not even so well known from a technology perspective. So Kish will go into details about that, and then we will explore various attack scenarios for these chargers, including both physical and cyber attacks as well. And following that, of course, we will discuss strategies to secure these BP EV chargers effectively. And we are trying to highlight recommendations and best practices to protect the infrastructure and ensure reliable operations. So we hope this overview will help you to understand the challenges and solutions in EV charging security. But now let's move on with Kish to an introduction to BP and the BP Pulse charging infrastructure.
Thanks, Chris. At BP, we've got a global presence of chargers, and to us, the key aspects of charging is safety, security, and compliance. Our payment terminals are varied. We've got a wide range of payment terminals and chargers across the globe. To that end, we have about 8,000 chargers. And our network is growing. It's a huge network and expanding rapidly. You can start, stop, activate a charge session using your app, using the web, using your mobile phone, using in-person transaction, using a card, smart card or payment card. All of our payment terminals have secure payment technology built in, and that is using derived unique key per transaction. All payment transactions are encrypted. Thank you. The charging network all payment terminals are contactless. We're rolling out P2PE in order to up our game in terms of PCI and PCI compliance. Under UK and German law, there are some regulations that we have to adhere to. The first, under UK law mandates that contactless cards and acceptance for charging sessions using contactless cards must be acceptable for public-facing chargers above 8 kilowatts. In Germany, it's similar, but it's any public-facing charger since 2023. And then finally, compliance meets security. Our payment terminals have a very high standard of regulatory compliance. We adhere to PCI and we adhere to quite a few others. In designing compliance and in designing our delivery, we look for business processes and business as usual as part of our target operating model. I've been and delivered many compliance models where it's BAU and it's embedded into the process going forward. The last thing you want to do is to achieve compliance and then go back and do it all again.
Yeah, and since we thought the majority here in the audience has never seen what such a charging process looks like, we've brought with us a quick video to show to you how it looks like.
At BP Pulse, we want to make charging as easy as possible, which is why charging your EV at one of our ultra-fast chargers can be done in 4 simple steps. Let's take a look. Step 1. Choose your payment method. For our best rates, subscribers and pay-as-you-go customers can use their BP Pulse charge card or the BP Pulse app to start a charge. Alternatively, you can use contactless payments. Just tap to start a charge. Step 2. Select your connector. Step 3. Plug the charger into your vehicle. Now, just relax and let our chargers do the work. Step 4 is ending your charge, which is just as easy as starting it. For Pulse subscribers, it's another tap of your charge card. Those using the BP Pulse app just need to hit the stop button. And for contactless payments, it's another tap to successfully end your charge. All that's left to do now is unplug and hit the road again.
Yeah, when it works, it's fantastic. So the inside of a charger, you know, we opened up the charger and took a photograph. It's pretty neat and tidy. You've got a human-machine interface in there. There's a charger control unit. There's a communications unit, and finally a payment terminal. And that makes up our network within the charger itself. That hanging network cable there, that's there because at some point we'll network our chargers and then have all the compliance headache that goes with it.
All right, then let's talk about attacks. So as you can imagine, there are various threats to the charging network. In general, you can divide the attacks into 2 areas, physical attacks and cyber attacks. So Kish will go into more details about physical attacks in the next couple of slides, and then I will cover the topic cyber attacks with some additional insights from, it's more physical penetration testing on chargers. So, but what you can think already is that quite often a physical attack can be a door opener for a cyber attack, for following a cyber attack as well. But let's first focus on the physical attack scenarios.
Thanks, Chris. So thank you. And so under this banner of sort of vandalism or malicious attacks, we're seeing a rise in EV chargers being blocked, or vehicles in fact being blocked with petrol and diesel cars. This is known as icing. Some of the chargers in the industry we're seeing being damaged, and damage inclusive of copper cable being stolen from the chargers. Only yesterday in the Telegraph there was a video on copper cable being stolen from a charger in the UK. These are not our chargers. These are my friend AI generated these pictures for me. But in terms of mitigation, we're looking at increasing our physical checks. That will come up later. We're looking at crowd-based capabilities where we can give maybe a credit to customers using, taking photographs, sending images back to us so we know what's going on with our chargers. Underpinned by that is the fact that our chargers are mainly unattended. Quite a few of them are in our forecourts, but a lot of them are unattended. We have technical controls. If the door opens, we get an alert. And then we generate awareness with our customers for the things that we do and the things that we don't do. Thank you, Chris. There are other things that can impact, so skimming and other physical compromises. The impact on EV drivers of successful skimming is fairly obvious. Loss of payment data, loss of personal information, and then unauthorized tap-and-go charging. And that creates a serious impact in terms of brand for us. So we try and avoid that. We make sure it doesn't happen. There was a session earlier on QR code payments, which I really liked. It was really interesting. But in the UK, certainly, and in Europe, QR code and quishing, so replacing the QR code with another one, sending you off to a site that looks like ours but isn't ours. In BP, we don't do QR code payments, certainly not yet. And we try and communicate that out to our customers. And in terms of defensive measures, user vigilance, physical inspection of devices, we have to up our game when it comes to physical inspection to make sure that our unattended and attended don't have anything attached to them.
Yeah, so let's have a quick look at some penetration testing insights, as I said before. So first, a quick disclaimer. So these are only symbolic pictures, and they are not really connected to BP-specific chargers. They just should show you that especially physical penetration testing is really something that you should do when you have such unattended devices. As you can see here, there are possible attack scenarios, of course, for attackers, for maybe removing a pin pad, if that is easily possible, or even lock-picking a charger, opening it, because it provides you a lot of surface for additional attacks then, especially when you have a look at the second picture, just a symbolic picture of a Raspberry Pi, where you, of course, when you have access to it, you have network ports and everything like that, and typically you have such components inside of chargers. It provides you a lot of attack scenarios as well for then additional cyber attacks in the next step.
Thank you. Under requirement 9 and PCI, we look at the targeted risk assessment. We physically inspect our chargers all the time, as much as we can, with whether it's an engineer visit or otherwise. And we recognize the risk at unattended payment devices. We include transaction counts in our TRA, so what's at risk between inspections. We identify high risk points. That's the high, not the risk of, not the value, but the volume of transactions. And we perform our physical inspections on all of our chargers, whether they have a payment terminal or whether they're private. We support security through our customer education, so it's twofold. We do the inspections, but we educate our customers to not necessarily, to what's good to look for and what's bad, and then to not use a charger if there's anything damaged or otherwise. We do an annual TRA, as we have to under the new 4.0. Now, there's a challenge in the image. To save you, the challenge is a camera. So due to the copper theft, we've been putting cameras on our chargers. The camera focuses down to where the customer is and where the cable is. The camera does not see payment data. The camera cannot see payment data, and we do inline blocking to make sure even if there's a smidge of payment data, it's blocked. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, let's talk a bit about cyber attacks. So, yeah, what about the whole topic? As you have seen in the previous slides, it looks familiar. So when you think about, and the audience in this room, you are all experts on that topic. So if you think about an on-premise environment, that you maybe used to have in the past, you can also typically think of what a charger looks like. So that also means that cyber attacks are somehow the same kind of cyber attacks are applicable for such an environment as well. Of course, remote hacking, unauthorized access. So you typically have some kind of remote access to chargers. You need that. Also maybe for software updates and things like that. So also, of course, the attacks are familiar then in that area. And you can also only think about what is possible when an attacker is able to put ransomware on a control board inside of a charger, which is often typically a Linux-based machine, for example. And then you can imagine that, of course, this is a big threat for maybe then one charger, maybe even for the whole charging network. So, and then when you connect it in addition with the physical attacks that you have shown, maybe for opening a charger, and you can plug in something into a USB drive into a control unit, that is then, of course, maybe even more critical. So, with that, I think let's talk about the security measures that we have in that area. But also here, you can imagine a lot of things are, let's say, quite common security best practices to protect the charging infrastructure So these best practices apply for chargers as well. For example, when we talk about secure communications, of course, you should try to use secure protocols like TLS version 1.2 or stronger. You need to care about strong authentication for remote access, using maybe even multi-factor authentication if that is possible. And of course, you also have the whole topic software security updates, because you have different components in there, like different control boards that need firmware updates as well, because they are using standard services which need updates. And you have, of course, you also must have a special focus on things like intrusion detection, because you have two aspects here. On the one aspect, you have this, let's say, classical intrusion detection that you know from a server-side environment as well. But here you also have things like motion detection systems for detecting if somebody opens a charger, for example. So you need to have additional aspects in mind when you are talking about this. And then maybe one or two sentences also about the physical security. Kish already covered that a bit, but also here you have to think about, let's say, surveillance, lightning, even awareness for consumers is important. Kish mentioned this QR code attacks. So to make the users aware, for example, that on the BP chargers there is no QR code acceptance at all, for example. You cannot use that. So to make really the consumers aware about these attacks, so that they know where to look at, to use the consumers as well to detect these kind of attacks. And last but not least, of course, the whole topic be compliant is also very relevant for the charging network. So it's of course also about PCI standards. So that's why we are here today. So Kish already mentioned PCI P2PE, but there's of course a whole list of requirements that you have, regulatory requirements, also like coming from NIS2 European regulations, that you have to fulfill. So you must also monitor what are the compliance standards that I have to adhere to, and also monitor the continuous compliance with these standards for the whole charging network that I have. And of course, this is challenging, but this is an important topic that you need. And I think with that...
Thank you. Yeah, definitely.
More or less.
You could take away for me, that'd be great. 3 takeaways from today. So the first is EV charging is booming, and so are the risks. Okay, so the increased physical inspections is critical for us, and as is the cost of those inspections. Unattended payment terminals. The more we put out there, the greater the risk of compromise. And unattended payment devices, not just in the EV world, but also at the in parking and so on. So we have to meet the PCI requirements and standards all the time with that challenge ahead of us too. And then finally, having the right partner. You've got to have a great QSA, and a QSA that knows not just BP, but knows the ins and outs of PCI is extremely helpful. We've got a great relationship and partnership with USD, and we've had it for some years. And thank you.
Yeah, and with that, I can only say that, of course, that's a very complicated topic that we had, and we could only give you a brief overview about everything, so we could even deep dive in so many other topics, so we just thought we'd give you a brief overview, and then, of course, we are happy to leave it up to you if you want to have more detailed discussions about how physical attacks are going on, what are, let's say, the trends that Kish is seeing at BP, what is happening, so we are really happy to dive into more details with you together, maybe in the networking area. So we will be here today and tomorrow. So we are always happy because that topic, I think, is very interesting also for discussion. So we're happy to dive into more details into those topics. And with that, feel free to, again, talk to us in the networking area.
Exactly.
And
thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.